What's up YouTube? I threw together this new intro reel to pre-roll my videos. Let me know what you think about it. So I sell VCRs and other electronics locally, and someone reached out on Facebook after seeing one of my posts, and they asked me to take a look at something they just purchased. I think it's really special, and I asked them if it was okay for me to make a video of it, and they agreed. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So what I got for you is right under this sheet. Here's the reveal. A CRT Disney TV from 2005 with an accompanying DVD player. Looks pretty nice, right? But it has a bit of a problem. The AV output just rolls like this. I wasn't sure if it was the TV or the DVD player, so I immediately hooked it up to this LCD monitor I have. This is the S-video output and it looks fine. However, when I switch over to the AV, there's nothing. So this is telling me the signal's not strong enough for this TV to pick it up. Since I do have S-video output, I decided to run through a number of DVDs to test the unit. So first I pop in Batman Begins, and then I try The Fifth Element, followed by The Dark Knight, Santa Claus. I tried a number of these. We only have bangers in this house, so all good movies. And this was the common issue. Some DVDs it would play a little bit, some it wouldn't play at all. But for the ones that would play, eventually it would lock up and refuse to play anymore. Seems like this could be an optical pickup issue on top of the video output issue. And with this thing pushing 20 years old, it's not really surprising it would have multiple issues at this point. It's time to open it up and investigate. Flip the unit over, take out all the screws, and pop the two tabs to get to more screws. And then I wrestled with it for a bit and eventually found out I had to turn it back over and lift the top up and out. Even more screws to get the unit out of the casing. To get the faceplate off, there's a tab on either side. You just need to push this out of the way and slide this off. There is a ribbon cable connected to the front plate, so don't go yanking on this thing. Then there's more screws to get the lid off. So finally we're in. Nothing special here. A pretty cheap, generic DVD drive. Once I remove this clamp here, it's revealed that this is a Sony unit. So maybe, fingers crossed, we can find a pretty cheap replacement on eBay. Taking the screws out that mount the DVD drive to the casing. Soldering this little LED bridge here so that the LED is protected from electrostatic discharge when I remove the unit. To get this flat cable out, there's a little tab you have to pull back, and then the cable just slides out. And then we've got two other cables that need to be unplugged. I put this piece of paper under here when I was soldering that bridge, so in case I drip solder, it wouldn't ruin anything on the board. I've got this little pry tool, I guess you'd call it, from iFixit, and I use that to take these plugs out. And leave a comment below if you're interested in these type of videos, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Leave me a like, that helps too. Here's a close-up of that solder bridge I was talking about. All that's required here is that you put a glob of solder across these three pads. Now more screws to get the board out of the casing. Making these videos helps with reassembly later. It lets me look and see which screws go where, what lengths of screws, what color they were. Helps me get everything right again. And I'm trying to pull this board out. This is some kind of spacer that the DVD drive sits on. I noticed that this cable here is hot glued to the casing, so I get a utility knife and a screwdriver, and I'm gently trying to pry this away so I don't break anything. I wasn't too entirely confident what I was looking for. However, I consulted good old ChatGPT before this, and it suggested potentially a capacitor had gone out that is connected to the video output. So I started on the yellow output here, and I had a digital multimeter set to continuity mode. Now what this allowed me to do was to probe any traces and find out what trace directly connected to this yellow video output. And almost immediately I found that one of these traces ran to a capacitor. So that was encouraging because that's what ChatGPT suggested could be the problem. And I'm pointing to the capacitor in question here. And I pull out my trusty LCR meter to measure the capacitor. This meter allows you to measure in circuit. It's a bit hit or miss. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. But from what I'm measuring right now, this capacitor is in the nanofarad range. And the ESR is about 99 or 90 ohms. So both of those seem quite off for a video output capacitor. The capacitance should be probably somewhere in the 330 or 400s. And then the ESR should be much lower in the milliohm range. So I'm prepping the area with some flux. I'm planning to desolder this capacitor, pull it out of circuit so I can measure it and get an accurate reading. I do this first by adding a little bit of solder here, just refreshing it, and adding additional solder, something that my solder sucker can grab onto. 2 pops and some finagling, and the capacitor is out. It's a 470 microfarad at 16 volts. Now let's measure it out of circuit. Yeah, so seems like the original measurement was pretty accurate. I have another ESR meter that I can hook this up to. It also reads pretty high in the ohm range, not as high. This uses a higher frequency, so I think the ESR measures a little bit lower. If we look at this chart here, it shouldn't be anywhere near 65 ohms. And now I'm measuring the capacitance with my digital multimeter, and here we're measuring about 87 picofarads. So off camera, I went through the grueling task of measuring every single capacitor in circuit. I had a color code whether it was good or bad, and I found about 9 capacitors that were bad. So I ordered some with the approval of the customer and waited for those to arrive. Now here's a comparison of the original capacitor, measuring still about 44 nanofarads and 90 ohms. And here's a new, beautiful Nichicon top shelf 47 microfarad 16 volt capacitor. Let's see what it measures. ESR is spot on at about 110 or so milliohms, and the capacitance is about 400 microfarad. This LCR meter measures with a high frequency, so you're not going to get the full capacitance measurement like you would with a digital multimeter. So I'm bending the leads to hold it in place, and we're tacking it in with the solder. I repeated this process for every single capacitor I had to replace, over and over and over again. I think I was a bit ill-equipped for going into this. The pads are smaller than what I'm used to, and my tip is not sized for them. It's about 1.5 times the size of these little pads, and as well as the solder wick, it was just too large to get some of the solder out of these small holes. If I were to do this again, I think I'd invest in the proper equipment. But let's just jump to the good part, when it's all assembled. So, kicking this thing on, that's a good sign. We see some action. No magic smoke coming out of the unit just yet. Let's jump to the screen and see the AV output. Alright, one issue down, but were the other capacitors the source of the DVD playing issue? Unfortunately, it's doing the same thing. The disc spins, locks up, won't eject. I'll have to give the bad news to the customer, see if they would want to try and replace this DVD drive, maybe find a new unit online. Good news is, this means there could be a part 2.